developing algorithm based on the how people in the how the environment evolves itself towards optimum goals. And what they have done is they were motivated by vision of imbuing computer programs with intelligence. They want computer programs with intelligence and just lifelike abilities to self-replicate. You know that every species on the earth, it's self-replicating. What we can say, their capabilities are increased. You can see that present generation, for example, is much smarter as compared to the older generations. And this happens because of natural evolution process. So that evolution process attracted these experts, and with the adaptive capability to learn and control their environment, so they were as such interested, therefore they were interested in biology, psychology, and as in electronics. And they looked to natural systems as a guiding force to achieve their vision. So this natural process of evolution attracted them, and they wanted to use these ideas in developing algorithms or developing programs. Thus, the computers were used not only to calculate missile trajectories, so complex computations, and deciphering the military codes, but also to model the brain, mimicking human learning, how human being learns, and simulating biological evolution. So these are the three main ideas, or three main areas they worked on. The first area, when they started working on modeling the brain, that gave rise to neural networks. You know that neural network is now one of the important component of soft computing. The second, that means mimicking human learning process, has turned into machine learning process. And the third, evolutionary computing, led to, this simulating biological evolution led to evolutionary computing, of which genetic algorithms are the most prominent examples. We will be concentrating on genetic algorithms here majorly, and if time permits, we'll have some one or two examples of other algorithms as well. But I don't think it will be possible in 1 hour's time. Let us see. Now you know that why do you want to do this evolutionary computing? Basically, you must have learned optimization techniques in your courses actually. So optimization techniques, you must have done maxima, minima, and all that by calculus methods or by numerical optimization techniques and things like that. Now, most of this direct or gradient-based optimization methods, you know that gradient search techniques are there, direct search techniques are there. Direct search techniques work directly on the value of the objective function. You just generate one optimum solution, and then you go on generating sequential approximations for the optimum solution. And similarly, you can do it on the basis comparing direct values or comparing gradient. What is that slope? How that function is being presented actually. So it depends on the gradient. So gradient-based optimization methods are there, or direct search optimization methods are there. The convergence of the optimal solution depends on chosen. So from where you start, most of these techniques starts with some initial point, and then there is an iteration formula for going from one solution to another solution, which changes from method to method. And then you check whether the optimum has been reached or not reached, or whether your sequence is converging or not converging. And then finally you say that this is the optimum solution. Once you get the convergence, you get this optimum solution. So the convergence of the optimal solution depends on from where you have started. You know that most of the functions are multimodal functions actually. So there can be several local optima and then one global optima. And most of these algorithms will work on suboptimal solutions. That means local optimum solutions. Because once you get the highest point in the neighborhood, you don't tend to change that neighborhood and then go to the other neighborhoods to search for global optimum solution. So most of these algorithms will tend to suboptimal solution. The efficiency of an algorithm depends on the nature of the problem. So if the problem changes, the efficiency will change. Algorithms are not efficient in handling discrete optimization problems. So when there is a continuous optimization problem, you can talk about gradients and all that. But how do you talk about gradients on discrete problems, actually, discrete optimization problems? So therefore, these are difficulties and cannot be efficiently used on parallel because most of these algorithms are sequential algorithms. And therefore, you cannot do any parallel computation, which can increase the speed of the computation. So these are the drawbacks, usually, or limitations, you may say, not drawback, limitations of traditional optimization methods. And this has given reason for people to search for alternatives. An alternative they have searched, here we are going to talk about, is evolutionary computing. Now, innovative techniques of optimization, there are many such techniques. What they do is they innovative ideas from nature. They borrow innovative ideas from nature and they have been used by mathematicians to develop new and efficient techniques for optimization. For example, now there are, that on the right hand side, you can see that these are the natural processes. Metal melting process. When you try to melt metal and put it in a crystallized form, that process has a typical behavior. That typical behavior has been imbibed into what is known as simulated annealing method for optimization. Now, what is this metal melting process? I mean, when you are trying to do crystallization, if you do the fast melting, then there will be some hollow gaps in the crystal formation, and crystal formation may not be adequate. And therefore, the melting process has to go very slowly. Now, that slowness is being adopted in simulated annealing algorithms. There is another process you see normally by ants, how they go about collecting their food, how they find the food source, take that food source to their nest, and so on and so forth. So you must have seen many ants are trying to search for food source. Once they get the food source, most of the ants will follow that trail, and then they'll go to the food source and collect that food source and take it to their nest and think this is what's happening. Now, so they are also doing sort of an optimization. They're also trying to search for and shortest distance from the food source to their nest, or shortest path from the food source to the nest. The same thing that we are now adopting in the form of optimization algorithm, and that is called as ant colony optimization. Then there are biological immune system. You know that you must have seen that current coronavirus pandemic. Now people have started getting immune to this coronavirus. Or coronavirus, the virus also got immune to many drugs, and therefore it was not possible to control this coronavirus. So any species, they get immune to the environment and they develop their own immune system to fight with the new attacks by the bacteria and things like that. So this biological immune system, there is a process, and that process we are trying to adopt in computer virus immune system. So then natural genetic processes, you know that there is a population, and then population, people get married, they get offsprings, and one generation goes off, another generation comes in, and so on and so forth. So the natural genetic processes are there, and these natural genetic processes are used in genetic algorithms, and these algorithms are used for solving optimization problems. So you can see that most of these natural processes are adopted by mathematicians to develop newer optimization algorithms. About evolutionary algorithm, when we talk about, the evolutionary algorithm is a family of stochastic search technique. Why stochastic search technique? Because most of these natural processes are random processes. You cannot say that the two intelligent parents, when they met, the child will be intelligent. May be possible that he may be wizard, he may not be at all intelligent, and so on and so forth. So it's a random processes are these are all random processes, and therefore evolutionary algorithms also are the random or stochastic search techniques, and that mimic the natural evolution proposed by Charles Darwin, survival of the fittest. You know that Charles Darwin, survival of the fittest, he says that those species which are fit, they will survive, others will get instinct, and the new species will with more capabilities will be called. So that is Darwinian survival of the fittest proposed, right? Proposed by this natural evolution proposed by Charles Darwin. An abstraction from the theory of biological evolution that is used to create optimization processes or methodologies usually implemented on computers that are used to solve problems. So we are trying to extract from the theory of biological evolution and put it in creating optimization process, which I already told you. So this search techniques comes under the aegis of guided random search techniques. Guided random search techniques. Now let us see. This is a process that is what is happening here. So this algorithms is made up of several iterations of basic evolution cycle. See, normally conventional optimization algorithms start with one initial solution, and then they go on generating sequence of solutions and which will reach to optimum solution. Here we are working on population. So present generation. So present generation is present population. Then there is a process of selection. That means matching, right? When you go for marriage, you try to select your co-partner, right? And that selection process we are considering, and we are trying to select the best suitable for our requirements or our nature and things like that. So similarly, we are doing the selection process here. Then they are the parents. They are parents who are going to generate new offsprings. So selected parents, the set of selected parents you get. Now selected parents, there will be some crossover, variations will be there. While copying genes, there will be some mutations that will take place. All these evolutionary operators, they are activated, and then new generation is created. New generation replaces the present generation. See, those who are very strong, persons who will survive in the even in next generation. So replacement takes place, and then again you go on in that cycle, and that is how the generations go on evolving, and better generations are produced. This is your natural evolution cycle, and this is what we adopt in the optimization algorithm in the evolution cycle. Now let us position EC, that means evolutionary computing. So what are we trying to do here? So there is a universe. This slide is taken from one of the PPTs available on the net, and I already put that in the reference. So not entire PPT, I'm taking this slide from that PPT. So universe we are taking, then there will be Earth in the universe. Earth has societies. Societies learn sciences. Sciences, then you talk about exact sciences. Exact sciences will lead to computer science or mathematics we are talking about. And then both of them will try to do some computational intelligence process. And then computational intelligence, when you are trying to do, we try to do evolutionary computing. So computational intelligence is imbibed, or that is the objective for evolutionary computing. That is one way of placing the evolutionary computing. This is another way of doing it. We talk about search techniques. So calculus-based search techniques and guided random search techniques. So these are the two different areas. Now these are leading to the your conventional optimization algorithm, this side. And whereas this side is leading to evolutionary algorithms, simulated annealing, you can talk about evolutionary strategies, you can talk about evolutionary algorithm. One of them is going to be genetic algorithm, and then there are parallel genetic algorithms or sequential genetic, and several things. So that means we are trying to place evolutionary computing somewhere in this realm of search techniques. This is the more focused version. That means if you take computational intelligence or soft computing, in that you have got three kinds of major areas. One, neural network, evolutionary computing, and fuzzy systems. In evolutionary computing, we have got evolutionary strategies, evolutionary programming, genetic algorithms, and genetic programming. Now, there is a slight difference between genetic algorithm and genetic programming. When you are applying your evolution process to computer programs, that means software development side, you do genetic programming. And when you are trying to solve optimization algorithms, you are doing genetic algorithms. So that is, in general, a very broad-based difference between this. There can be many more insights to both these techniques. We'll not go into depth of that. We'll be quickly going to genetic algorithms. Now, what is the brief history of evolutionary computing? We can, if you think, then you start with Turing, as we mentioned earlier. Genetical or evolutionary search was developed in 1948 by Turing. Then in 1962, Weberman gave optimization through evolution and recombination. So this is another stage at which the evolutionary computing developed. In 1964, Riehenberg introduced the evolution strategies. In 1965, Vogel, Owens, and Walsh introduced evolutionary programming. That means they are applied to software development process. And 1975, Holland introduced the genetic algorithm. This was the first origin of genetic algorithms. Goldberg and Samtani made application of genetic algorithm for solving some kind of civil engineering problem. So 10-member plane truss optimization problem. And then Jenkins did some more applications of genetic algorithms, and Koza introduced the genetic programming. So this is a brief history in 1992. And there onwards, the genetic algorithm has become an important component of soft computing, which is known as soft computing, and now is being taught there are several courses on soft computing or several courses on evolutionary computing and so on and so forth. So genetic algorithms have now become a major part of the soft computing or even learning processes, optimization processes. Let us go to the Darwinian evolution, survival of the fittest, a little bit in more details, and see what happens in that. All environments have finite resources. That you will agree, right? The species go on increasing, but resources are not increasing with that speed, and they're all finite resources, can only support a limited number of individuals. If the population explodes, naturally the resources will be short, and you will not be able to provide resources or food, for example, for all the individuals that are there. So life forms have the basic instinct or life cycle geared towards reproduction. So there is a natural instinct for reproduction. Every species reproduce. They are not taught, but that natural instinct tells them to reproduce. Therefore, some kind of selection is inevitable. When reproduction comes naturally, two parents or two species has to meet each other, and in meeting each other, they will select the better options that out of the options they have. Therefore, some kind of selection is inevitable. Those individuals that compete for resources most effectively have increased chance of reproduction. Why? Because they will be selected more. They are competent, and everybody will be attracted towards the person. Note, fitness in natural evolution is a derived secondary measure. That is, we human assign what is fitness. See, fitness will depend on the individual's liking. One may like a very strong bodied person, or one may like very intelligent person. It depends on the choice. But that is human assigns a high fitness to individuals with many offsprings. So what is it with those who are having many offsprings? Natural human will assign more fitness, high fitness to those individuals in that case. Population consists of diverse set of individuals, naturally. Combination of traits are better adopted tend to increase representation in population. So individuals are unit of selection. Okay, so that means there is a population. In those populations, there are many individuals, and selection, you are selecting an individual. So individuals are units of selection. Variations occur through random changes, yielding constant source of diversity coupled with selection. Means population is the unit of individuals. Population gets evolved, not individual. Individual may increase their strength, but population gets evolved, and the entire population generation, their quality increases. Note the absence of guide. There is no any guiding force. Nobody tells you to do this or do that. It naturally evolves. So that is the Darwinian things. Now, what is the adaptive landscape metaphor? That means if you are trying to look at this, can envisage population with end traits. Now, population with end trait means there are several things, right? Color of the skin, intelligence, the body strength, and there are several traits, eye color or whatever. I mean, you can have several end traits. So every population will have end traits. Depending on these end traits, his fitness will be decided. And that is n plus, that means height corresponds to the fitness. So that means any population can be represented in a n plus one dimensional space. And each different individual, which we call it as a phenotype, represents a single point on the landscape. I'll explain this a little more when we go to the specific examples. Population is therefore a cloud of points moving on the landscape over time as it evolves. So population goes on changing, so landscape also goes on changing. So moving on the landscape over time as it evolves, so that is adoption, it adopts. Selection pushes population up the landscape. So when you are selecting, you are getting better individuals, and therefore the height will go on increasing, and therefore it will push landscape up. And genetic drift will, genetic drift means there may be some kind of error, sampling errors or anything that can happen, and that may melt down the hills, and you may be crossing over valleys and things like that, leaving local optima. So that means, let us see here, this is what I am trying to say. If there are two traits, we can draw only figures for three-dimensional things. So therefore, we are taking individuals with two traits only. And these two traits we are considering, and this is what the population landscape is going to be like. So this is my landscape, the plane that is given here. So populations are points on the landscape, and this is going to be your, we can see here, cloud of points. So this is your cloud of points, which is being shown in the figure here. We'll see this in more details when we come to specific examples. Now, what is the biological background? How the individuals evolve? That is, we are going into somewhat more details. All living organism consists of cells. In each cell, there exists a set of chromosomes, string of DNA. Okay, so there are several cells. Each cell consists of set of chromosomes, that is string of DNA, which serves as a model for the whole organism. You know that if you want to identify a person, you have to identify his DNA. So that means that DNA, strings of DNA, will identify the whole organism. In most cells, there are two copies of each chromosomes. So that means each chromosome will have two copies, and each chromosome can be conceptually divided into genes, functional blocks of DNA. So one gene will have several blocks like that. Let me tell you, if you have got any questions anytime in between, you can ask those questions to me and anytime so that the thing will become more interesting. Okay, so each chromosome can be conceptually divided into gene functional blocks of DNA. Each gene encodes a particular pattern representing a phenotype or trait, color of eyes, and so on and so forth. That means you have got a sort of a string in which there are some blocks. Each block represents one gene. Each block represents one gene. And now this block will be responsible for some trait. For example, some gene may be responsible to change color of your eyes. Some gene may be corresponding to brain capabilities. Some gene may be correspond to your bone strength or body strength, and so on, so forth, skin color. So that means each gene encodes a particular pattern representing a phenotype. So what we are talking about, the quality of the person, I'm calling it as a phenotype. Whereas the chromosome, that means the gene, the string of DNA, that I'm going to call it as genotype. So that means we'll see here a complete set of genetic material is called as genome. So genetic material, there will be several such blocks of DNA, that is called the genetic material we are talking about. So that will be genome and a particular set of genes, because what capabilities these genes is having, so that will depend, and that will specific genes, particular set of genes is called as genotype. So that means every person will have a genotype. Genotype is a technical sort of DNA and DNA string, and individual genes will be there in that. And phenotype, the genotype gives rise to organisms' phenotype. So phenotype is its physical and mental characteristics, such as height, skin color, brain size, intelligence, etc. Everything is phenotype. So phenotype leads to fitness, genotype leads to an individual, coded individual. Genetic code identifies an individual. So that is what we are doing here. Now, genes to phenotype mapping is a complex mapping. So genes means because genes give rise to phenotypes, therefore I'm saying that this mapping is a very complex mapping. One gene may affect many traits. That means one gene may be responsible for skin color, even eye color, and many other things. Or many genes may affect one trait. So there may be very many genes responsible for intelligence, for example, or responsible for body strength, and so on and so forth. So that means these are very complex maps. So during creation of the offspring, recombination of genes from parents occur. You know that two parents met, and there will be some sort of this recombination of genes will occur and form a whole new chromosome in some way. The new created offspring is then muted. That means there may be some errors while copying the genes from parent to the offspring, and that is called as mutation. And these changes are caused by errors in copying genes from parents. So mutation takes place, and finally, the fitness of the organism is measured by means of the success of the organism in life. So that means the genetic process, two parents meet. If you look at the individuals, if you look at cell evolution, then one cell itself will split into two and it will go on reproducing cells. Whereas when you're talking about human beings or even animals and so on and so forth, the two parents will meet and then they'll give rise to offspring. So one offspring or two offspring or multiple offsprings and so on and so forth. So what is GA? So we are now talking about genetic algorithms. We are coming specific to genetic algorithms now. Are inspired by Darwinian theory of survival of the fittest. Algorithm is started with a set of solutions represented by chromosomes called populations. Solutions from existing population are used to form new population, which is expected to be better according to their fitness. And new population is generated using genetic operators. How this new population is generated? We are using genetic operators. What are the genetic operators? Here are the genetic operators. Encoding scheme means trying to identify a person with genotype. So that is my genetic code. Now here, genetic code will be represented by numeric code for a solution of an optimization problem. Then fitness evaluation. That means this genetic coded information, what will be its fitness? So that means evaluation of the objective function. Then there are three major genetic operators which are called as selection or reproduction, the crossover, and mutation. Reproduction here should not be misinterpreted as a generation of the offspring. Offspring is generated only after crossover. Reproduction means you may reproduce in the sense that we are talking about the one individual being utilized by several people. I mean, you know that in animals, it happens that there is one male and there are several females associated with that male. That means reproduction process takes place. So that means multiple copies of that individual will be utilized. So in that sense, we are talking about selection and reproduction. And then crossover will be meeting of two parents and they'll be generating an offspring. Mutation means, as I told you, errors in copying genes in the offsprings. Now let us look at it from the mathematical point of view, and that is our main concern here. So we are talking about, if I'm taking a simple optimization problem, but this is an unconstrained problem. Your problem can be even constrained one also. So maximize a function of several variables. Now these several variables can be regarded as traits of human beings, various traits of human being, and f of x1, x2, x3, xn can be considered as his reputation in the society or his fitness in the society. Now each of these variables, you know that you give some bounds to that, lower bound and upper bound, so they vary between that because it's an unconstrained optimization problem, and we are trying to maximize or minimize. Minimization problem can also be handled by GA, or maximization problem also can be handled by GA. So my main problem I'm trying to address using genetic algorithm is this. Now let us see how this happens. So first, as I told you, first we are doing encoding. Encoding schemes we are trying to do. So what is encoding? Encoding is not absolutely necessary. Some GAs will work directly on the variable themselves. For example, if you're talking about variables in optimization problem, x1, x2, x3, xn, they will be taking real numbers, real values. You can directly work with the values, or you can code these values in terms of binary strings or in hexadecimal strings or octal strings, or maybe some other. So there can be some coded values also. So however, most GAs work on binary coded strings only. So each real value is converted into its binary code. Now conversion in the binary code will be depending on what length of the binary string you are going to fix and how this will be changing. So that is what we'll be discussing a little later. So thus all design variables are coded as binary string. Whole length is determined according to the desired accuracy. What accuracy? See, length of the binary string will decide to what level of accuracy we can code the numbers. Because if I take, say, 5-digit binary string, then there can be only 31 different values that I can code. And if your range is between, say, 0 to 100, your accuracy will be very, very less. If your range is between 0 to 10, your accuracy may be a little better, and so on. Like that, you can think of it. So suppose SI is a binary string of length Li, which code xi. So that means for each individual variable, we are deciding length of the binary string, that is li. So then actual value of xi is given by formula like this. So because I am taking a binary string, now every binary string I am taking a value. So binary string will be converted into a real number. All right, so that I'm calling it as DSI. DSI is the, see, SI is this binary string. DSI is the decoded value of the binary string SI, and that is given by what? SI 0 means your first digit is unit, then tens place, 100 place, like that. But because it is a binary string, I am taking 2 star SI1, 2 square SI2, and so on and so forth. If it's decimal, I'll be taking it as 10 star something. Octal, I'll take 8 star something, and so on and so forth. So this SI is this string we are talking about, binary string. Its decoded value DSI is computed like this. And then because I'm taking XI value and I want to code numbers between XIL to XIU, I'm using this formula. So lower limit plus how much proportion we are taking here. Because total string length will be 2li minus 1, because that will be the last value, that will be maximum value that you can code with li, string of length li. And therefore 2li minus 1 is the maximum number that you can get, and DSI is the actual value of the code. So that ratio we are taking. That ratio we are multiplying by the range, and that will give me actual real value of that variable xi. So from string si, I'll go to xi, and that xi I will use it in the function, objective function, determining objective function value. With li bit coding of a variable, the accuracy that we will be achieving is xiu minus xil divided by 2 raised to li. That much accuracy we can get. So if it is accuracy, if it is 100 minus 0 divided by 32, if I am doing, then accuracy will be very, very low level accuracy we can get. But if it is 0 to 1, and if I am coding it by this, then accuracy will be 4-digit level accuracy will be there. Because I'll be getting 1 minus 0 divided by 32, that is what I'll be getting. So then accuracy will be better. So that is how accuracy and ranges are related to each other. So entire solution, that means one value of x bar, that is my solution. So x bar is given by x1, x2, x3, xn. Each x1 has a string s1, s2, s3, sn. So if I concatenate these strings together and make a big string s, so s will be s1, then you write s2, then you write sli. So that means that is how you'll be getting, and therefore the length, total length of the string, so that L, and that is my coded solution. So every solution will be coded in terms of a binary string of length L, which is summation of lengths of individual variables involved in the solution. So that is how any set of such solutions, that is set of bit string, because it's binary string, and therefore of length L is called as a population. So set of such solutions is called as a population. All right. Now fitness of any solution can be evaluated using the objective function. So objective function is this. If in the maximization problem, the fitness function will be same as the objective function. That is, fx will be equal to small fx. Small fx is my objective function. Capital Fx is fitness function. In minimization problem, because we are always trying to increase fitness, in minimization problem, I am writing it as fx equal to 1 upon 1 plus small fx. You must ensure that the denominator is never 0. So that when fx increases, when fitness increases, fx value will decrease. So the fitness function value of a string representing a solution is known as string fitness. So you have coded population. From coded population, you actually find out the values of those variables. Put these values of the variables in the objective function. From objective function, you find the fitness of the solution. So the operation of GS begin with a population of size capital N. So you have population of size capital N. This is the major shift from the conventional optimization algorithm. Conventional optimization algorithm works with one solution at a time, whereas GA will work with N, capital N solutions at a time. And therefore, there is a scope of parallelism. Okay, so representing design or design variable solution. Therefore, each string is evaluated to find the fitness value. From a string, identify all substrings representing each of the design variables and identify their values using formula given earlier. Then evaluate fitness. And so ith string will have fitness fi. Then the current population is modified using three genetic operators, namely reproduction, crossover, and mutation, so that the newly evolved population will have better average fitness. So that is our objective. The iterative process will stop if the population is homogeneous, in the sense that there is very little difference between the fitness of individuals in the population. So in the sense that all strings have nearly same fitness value, so that any of this solution can be regarded as an optimum solution. So this is what is happening. Now let us look at this. What are the details of the genetic operators? Genetic operators we are talking about is the reproduction operator. So primary objective is to emphasize good solutions and eliminate bad solutions from the population while keeping the population size constant. So what happens, you know that if the individual is poor, in terms of human beings, if I'm talking about, if individual is not that fit or very poor in qualities, he may not get married. That means he will be eliminated in that generation. Those who are better suited, they'll be remaining in the population. They will be giving rise to offsprings. They will be in the mating pool and things like that. So that is what is happening here. So primary objective is to emphasize good solution in the mating pool. So while keeping the population size constant, so we keep population size constant. So this is achieved by identifying good solutions in a population, make multiple copies of good solutions, eliminate bad solutions from the population to make room for additional copies of the good individuals, good ones. So there are several methods to do that. One of the methods is roulette wheel selection. Roulette wheel selection means what you do is roulette wheel is created like a statistical pie chart in which every solution in the population has a slot of size proportional to its fitness. And then the wheel is spun capital N times to give rise to capital N new offsprings. Each time the selecting an instance of the string chosen by the wheel pointer. You know that you must have seen the gambling centers where you rotate the wheel and then the number will come, and that number, if you are called for, you win, otherwise you lose. Here, if that number comes or whatever number comes, that individual will be taken into mating pool. That is how it will happen. So if capital Fi is the fitness of the ith string, then the above mechanism is expected to make Fi by Fa copies of the ith string. That is, Fa is the average fitness of the population. Average fitness of the population. So you divide. So how much? If it is Fi is more than average fitness, there will be more copies. And if there is less than the average fitness, it may get removed from the population, mating pool. So ways to perform reproduction. There is another operator which I'll skip right now. Ranking selection is there. Now this is tournament selection. That means you organize tournaments between the two solutions. And one who is with better fitness, he will win. So he will be going to the mating pool. The other person will not get. Then another pair will be created. So every individual will get a second chance to participate in the tournament. And again, so such capital N tournaments will be performed, and each time one person will be selected, and every time a better fitted person will be selected. Thereby, the better, persons having more fitness will have a better chance of getting selected in the population. So this is what we are having. So this is reproduction operator. There is a population, and finally, what you get is a mating pool. So reproduction operator cannot create new solution, any new solution. Only original solutions are repeated in the mating pool. So some of them will be repeated, some of them will be removed. Now the crossover operator. Crossover operator is creation of new solutions is performed in a crossover. In all crossover operators, two strings are picked up from the mating pool at random, and some portion of the strings are exchanged between the strings. So that is how it will be done. So in order to preserve some good strings selected during the reproduction operation, not all strings are used in crossover. If crossover probability is PC, that means you form pairs of strings from mating pool. So they are acting as a parents. Now every parent may not get offspring. So therefore, what we are doing is we are mimicking by selecting a probability PC, which will be generally higher. So majority of the strings will take part in the crossover operation, but some strings may not take part in the crossover operation, and they will directly carried in the new population. So that is how it will happen. Here we are going to create two parents will create two offspring. So that means parents will be replaced by the offsprings, and if the offsprings are not there, if that pair does not take part in the crossover operation, the same parents will be copied in the new population. So that is how it will be done. And now this is single point crossover. That means you have a single point. There are strings here, and there will be a single point crossover will be there. So portion of the string will be exchanged between the two parents, and the new strings will be produced here. There can be 2-point crossover. There can be mutation. Now, so these are the two things we are considering, but we'll do that more during the example. And mutation operator means every string, every bit of every string has a chance of getting mutated with probability which is very, very low. And that probability I'm going to call it as PM, probability of mutation. So what I do is I toss a coin or select a number randomly. If that random falls below PM, that bit will be muted. Muted means what? If the bit is 1, it will become 0, and if it is 0, it will become 1. So that is how mutation will take place. And because the PM is very small, very few bits will be getting muted. So errors will not be too many. There will be few errors occurring while copying the genes, and that is being what we can say imitated by using this particular process of mutation. And then what happens? The algorithm is choose the coding mechanisms, coding scheme, fitness function, the problem parameters, fitness function, reproduction, crossover, and mutation operator. There can be several such operators. Which operator you want to use, that you have to select. Population size, capital N, then crossover probability, crossover mutation probability, and then maximum number of iterations you want to perform. All that you have to select, and that is called as genetic model or genetic algorithm model, GA model. Then evaluate each string in the population. Then if iteration count is more than this, we stop. Or if the population is homogeneous, homogeneity of the population can be determined by finding out standard deviation. If the standard deviation is very low, we can stop the process. Otherwise, you perform reproduction operator, you perform crossover operator, you perform mutation operator, and go to the new iteration or new population. Now let us do this here. 10 minutes we'll spend on this example. So minimize this. I'm taking this example. Subject to the constraint this, and variable bounds are like this. D minimum. You can see that this is nothing but if you take a cylinder with diameter D and height H, then I'm looking for minimizing the surface area of the cylinder. These are the two top, this is top face and bottom face, so they are circular, therefore their area is pi d square by 2, okay, pi d square by 2. And here I am talking about 2 times we are taking. So actually pi d square by 4 is the area of the one circle, but there are 2 circles and therefore it will be pi d square by 2 plus pi dh. Pi dh is the surface area of the cylinder. Here pi d square h by 4 is your volume of the cylinder. So I want that cylinder should have volume greater than or equal to 300 with minimum surface area. And I'm multiplying C. You can take that, suppose I want to paint a cylinder. Then painting charges will be C. Or if I want material charges, so that material charges will be, material cost will be C. So C into this. So I want to minimize material cost of the cylinder, hollow cylinder we are talking about, whose volume will be greater than or equal to 300. That is what my problem is. And I'm looking at those cylinders which are between some minimum value and maximum value. Okay, so this is your max minimization problem. You can also have a maximization problem. You can see here my constraint I'm plotting in MATLAB. So constraint is this. So this this I'm plotting. I'm plotting and its values are given here. So volume is given over here and height and distances are plotted on this. So this is 3-dimensional figure which gives me...
Sorry to interrupt. Yeah. Okay. So 10 minutes are left. So just to remind you for that.
Yeah, I know. Okay, fine.
Okay.
So you can see here that this figure will tell you that I'm selecting points here on the some height and some diameter, and then volume is plotted here. And since I want my constraint to be greater than or equal to 300, I'll have a surface at level of 300, and I'll look at all the points which are by projecting the remaining surface on the XY plane, actually, XY plane. And that will be my feasible solution. That will be area of my feasible solution. So that is how I am taking care of my constraints. All right, now we are representing a solution by means of bit strings of 5 bits each. So diameter is represented by 5 bits and height is also represented by 5 bits. And we are taking overall making string of length 10. So that will be my, so coded solution will be like this. So coded solution is like this. So this is my coded solution. Now you can look at this. The first 5 bits will represent diameter. So this value, if I look at the binary string, it is 8. And this binary string will represent 10. And therefore my actual solution is 8, 10. So 8 is the diameter, 10 is the height. And if you substitute these values in the surface area, if you try to find out surface area, approximately you will get value as 23. So this is my way of converting bit into value, values of the variable and values of the variable to fitness. So what I'm now doing is I'm selecting, so this is how I've done it. You can check that carefully little later. And that is how I got my 8 value and so on and so forth. And then using this, I'm getting 23. All right. Now what I'm doing is I'm trying to select a population. So what population I've selected randomly. I'm taking this population. Randomly selected population will be in the form of bit strings. So I'm taking arbitrary strings of length 10, putting 0 and 1 arbitrarily. And then I'm trying to convert it. So this bit is converted into a value 810. This bit is converted into 912. So these are the actual values. Substituting these values in the objective function, I'll get fitness. So my initial population, I'll be getting it like this. Now this initial population, I can plot it and you'll get a surface like this. But if I rotate that surface, I'll also get the where this population. So the bottom of these rods that you see here is my population. And that population are the points on the XY plane. And these are the fitnesses. Height of the rod will give me the fitnesses. And therefore, this population along with the fitness is shown in the figure here. And this is how the population, initial population looks like. Now I'm doing tournament selection. Tournament selection, I'm doing it as taking pairs and playing tournament in that. So which is the better, because I'm minimizing, I'm taking minimum surface area. So 23. Here 24 wins. Here 37 wins. Here 30 wins. Here 23 wins. 24 wins. you can see here there are multiple copies of 24 and 23, whereas 37 and 30 occurs only once. So that means my new population after tournament selection has become now like this. So 810 is twice, 811, 912, 811 has occurred twice, and 14.6. So these are the 4 points, and now this new population is again plotted here. And you can see now there are only 4 distinct values here in the population. That is okay. So that means I'm representing this population like this. Then I'm taking crossover operation. In crossover operation, I'm taking 2 strings. So I'm selecting 2 strings arbitrarily, 23 and 37. These are the strings. Now I'm taking crossover side. You know that I'm taking single point crossover operator I'm using, and therefore I want only one side. One side I'm taking, and now I'm going to do right portion of the string is exchange. So right portion of the string is exchange. So therefore this new string will be formed like this. So new string will be formed by shifting this here and shifting this there. So that is how I'm getting new offsprings. So this will be converted to 10.6. This is 12.10. So I'm getting 122 with value, fitness value 22. Other offspring with fitness value 39. Now because I want 6 size of the population fixed as 6, I'm taking 2 more crossover operations, and you can see I'm doing the same thing, but crossover side I'm selecting randomly. I'm taking it here, here I'm taking on this side, and that is how I am again doing the same crossover, and then I'll be getting this 2 will be converted into 10.6 and 13.12. This will remain. I'm saying that this pair does not take part in crossover with that probability, and therefore the same thing will be copied, and that is how my new population has become now this. So 10.6, 12.10, 10.6, 12.10, 10.6 again, 13.12, 8.10, 8.11. So my new population now has become like this, and if I plot this new population, then I'll take mutation. So how mutation is taking place? I'm taking all the strings, and each bit of the string I'm trying to toss a coin with probability PM of success, and then if I get a number less than PM, I'll change that bit. So during the process, I could find that only in this string, 1 bit has been altered. So mutation has taken place here, and therefore 10.6 has been converted to 8.6. And this 8.6 will give me fitness value 16. So I get better in it. Now 49, again I'm muting this. So this bit is muted, 1 has become 0, and therefore 13.12 has become 5.12, and the fitness value becomes 15. Now this is accidental, that both of them are better strings. It is not necessary. If I bit, so for example, this bit 0 is changed, then 0 will change to 1 here, and this value of diameter will increase multifold. 16 plus 8, that is 24 to become. And then the fitness value will be worse than any other member of the population. So therefore this may happen. So that is possibility. And therefore I'll get a population. You can see here the population slowly changes towards the minimum point. So minimum point is somewhere here, because this side are infeasible solutions. These are the feasible solutions are on this side, and therefore the minimum will occur over here. That is how your population gets evolved and moving towards the optimum solution. You can see here that average fitness of this population is much better as compared to your initial population, and that is how the genetic algorithms work. Okay, I think I'll stop here. I'm not doing anything else, but I'll just tell you what other things you can ask for. So why genetic algorithm works? And there is a theorem which is called a schema theorem, or theorem which is called a short, low order, above average schema receive exponentially increasing trails in the subsequent generations. Now, schema means nothing but a template that we are doing. So this is a schema, means 3 bits are fixed in all the strings. So these are the strings belonging to this schema. All right. Then you talk about height and order of the schema. Height and order. So low order means there'll be less number of fixed positions. High length means the distance between the first fixed string, first value and the last fixed value is less. So that is short, low order, above average. Above average means fitness will be above average. Such schemas will get more repetition in the succeeding generation. That means which will increase the average fitness of the succeeding generation. So that is how the genetic algorithms work. So if you can prove this theorem, there is a short proof I have given here. And also we can think of what are the advantages of GA, what are the main features of GA. You can see that GA are parallel search algorithms, applicable to both continuous and discrete optimization problems. GA are stochastic and less likely. The major limitations of GA is that every time you may get new solution. So same solution may not be repeated. So repeatability will be less, and maybe you may have to run GA for 2-3 iterations and then take the average population and things like that. So that is how the GA will change. But there are many advantages. These are the drawbacks. Difficult to find encoding for some of the problems. Difficult to define a valid fitness function. May not return a global of maximum and so on and so forth. So there are many limitations of this. And then there are several applications you can do. Advantages of GAs are given. Then advantages of evolutionary algorithms in general we can discuss. And this is another evolutionary algorithm, tabu search method, which is given. I'll ask people to share this PPT with you, and you can go into the details. And if you want to discuss any point with me, you can always welcome to write an email to me. Thank you. So I'll stop here. Hello.
Any questions?
Any questions? I'll be able to answer. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, I think there are no questions. Okay, I'd like to thank sir for such an informative and knowledgeable session. And we are fortunate to have you here, sir. I thank you on behalf of Parul University team. And I would also like to extend my thanks to all the participants who are part of this webinar and also to the organizing team. Thank you so much.
How many participants were there?